Hello everyone, my name is Ritesh and today we'll discuss current affairs topic, right? So today's topic is the semiconductor shortage, right? So we'll discuss this topic in little detail, why this is very different news, like this shortage of semiconductor materials, right? So why this, again we'll discuss this thing, that why this was in news, that the key points involved in this shortage of such kind of material, right? Then the reasons for such kind of shortage, then the impact of this shortage, then the way forward. Again, this the overview is very simple. Just understand the basic words in this topic itself, right? So let us start with the topic, that why this was in news, right? So recently there has been an abrupt and cascading shortage of semiconductor worldwide. Again, why this particular thing was in news is the reason is that the shortage of semiconductor materials in the market, right? And there's an abrupt and this cascading shortage of these kind of materials worldwide. Now, just understand, there must be some non-science students over there, right? So first, let's just know about semiconductor itself. Now, the semiconductors are materials that have a conductivity between conductors and non-conductors or insulators, right? So again, if you remember, semiconductor, what is this? Semiconductor are the materials which have a conductivity between conductors and insulators, right? So conductors are basically generally metals which allow them to electricity to pass and all, and non-conductors are such as ceramics and all, right? Non-conductors means insulators, right? And it falls between the conductor and the insulator. So this is conductor, this is insulator, right? This is semiconductor, right? So they have a property between these two things. Then semiconductors can be pure elements such as silicon or germanium, or compounds such as gallium arsenide or cadmium selenide, right? So again, these are the elements that are involved in semiconductors and all. Then conductivity is actually the measure of the ease at which an electric charge or heat can pass through a material. So conductivity is a term. It means it is the measure of the ease at which an electric charge or heat can pass through a material. So conductivity can be higher for some materials or can be lower for some materials. For example, if we are considering conductors, so they have a high conductivity. Same if we compare that to with semiconductor, they have a low conductivity with respect to the conductors. And if we take example of insulators, they have zero conductivity because they won't pass, they won't allow to pass any heat or electric current through it, right? So conductivity depends, again it is a measure of the ease at which an electric charge or heat can pass through that material, right? Now let us discuss the key points over this of actually semiconductor shortage. First, they are also known as integrated circuits, or commonly just chips. So semiconductors, they are basically known as integrated circuits or commonly just chips, right? Then they may be the tiniest yet most exacting product ever manufactured on a global scale. So again, these all are factual things, right? Then electronic parts and components today account for 40% of the cost of new internal combustion engine car, up from less than 20% 2 decades ago, right? Okay, so this is saying, these data are saying that electronic parts or the components, these together account for 40% of the cost of a new internal combustion engine. So if there's a new engine, 40% of the cost will go to the electronic parts and the components, right? And this is up like 20% up, because in the last decade we have seen 20% and now it costs 40% of that. So there's an increase in 20% of the cost because of this. Again, then we are saying that semiconductor chips account for a bulk of this increase, right? So semiconductor chips are very important, like I said. Now let us come back to the topic again and let us just explain the reasons for shortage, right? Because this was in news, the shortage of semiconductor. Now you have to understand what is the reason of shortage, right? First is work from home due to COVID, right? So just again, lockdowns increase the growth in sales of laptops to the highest in a decade. First is a very basic example, and this is the main reason also. In lockdown period, in quarantine, in lockdown period basically during COVID, so there was a huge growth in the sales of laptop, right? The online thing went so much there's so much increase in online content and online things, and see there's so much increase in the selling of laptops, iPads, right? So there's I'm just giving you an example. There was a laptop of particular brand, HP actually, which launched some before lockdown. It cost only 49 to 52 around, right? But due to lockdown and after in the lockdown period itself, the price went up to 65-70,000, right? If you are purchasing MacBook, it was initially 65,000, right? Now it costs around 80 to 85,000. So you can guess this thing, that how much increment is happening in sale of these kind of things, and they involve semiconductor materials, right? So that is why one of the reasons. First, the sale of laptops has been increased drastically, right? Then second reason is the false forecast. Now what is false forecast? What is it related to? Now automakers that cut back drastically early in the pandemic underestimated how quickly car sales would rebound. Now just in lockdown, automakers cut their manufacturing process and all, because they thought they won't have orders enough, right? Even after the lockdown. So the forecast of these automakers were so false, that because why, just after the lockdown there's so much demand of cars and all, right? So the sale of car again goes very increasing, right? So this was the false forecast. They won't manufacture such kind of things in a very large scale, right? Then third reason is the stockpiling. Computer makers began warning about tight supplies early in 2020. So computer makers already began warned the market that there is a tight supply starting early in 2020, right, of these kind of semiconductor. So again, stockpiling is one of the reasons. There are so many companies that stockpile such kind of materials in their factories, right, just to manufacture and produce so many things in near future. So stockpiling is one such reason. So again, what are the reasons? First is work from home due to lockdown. Again, the sale of laptop increased. Second is the false forecast, the automakers of car companies, right? Third one is the stockpiling. So these were the reasons for the shortage. Now let us discuss the impact of this, right? Impact of the shortage. First, that the countless industries have been affected as global demand for semiconductor chips continues to outsupply, right? Again, first impact is that the global demand is so much than the supply that we are, that these countries which are actually facing troubles, not just in our country itself, but globally. So industries are affected, industries are being affected in a very large scale, right? They have been affected because the demand of such kind of thing is actually much more than the supply of these kind of things, right? Second is the chip shortages are expected to wipe out 210 billion US dollars of sales for car makers this year, with production of 7.7 million vehicles lost. Now you can just take an idea from the data itself how this will impact not just our country but globally, how it will impact this particular material. this particular thing, which is semiconductor, and the shortage of such kind of thing will impact so many different industries and countries globally, right? Then semiconductor shortage will constrain the production of many electronic equipment types. Again, again the shortage of semiconductor will have impact on every industries in which the raw materials is from the semiconductor itself. So there are so many every electronic equipment somehow involves such kind of semiconductor in their thing. So again, if there is a shortage of semiconductor, if there is a shortage of raw material, the whole factory, the whole industry will get affected. The whole electronic equipment types will get affected, right? Because the manufacturing will not be, you can't manufacture such kind of things if you don't have any, if you don't have supply of raw material itself, right? Then the chip shortage directly impacts consumers as prices of everyday appliances and electronic goods from TV to smartphone have increased due to the global supply chain disruption. Again, this is related to the electronic equipment. Because there's a shortage in chip, there's shortage in semiconductors, the price of everyday appliances, for example, TV, refrigerator, washing machine, iPad, MacBook, or even phones basically. So, the price of these appliances, of these electronic equipments are increasing day by day because of the shortage of these kind of things, and this is actually impacting the general household basically, right? Because we as a consumer go to the market and if we saw the price of mobile increasing day by day, we won't afford such kind of thing, right? So this will affect the consumer lastly, right? So the consumers are also getting affected from this kind of thing. Next is the India-Taiwan agreement related to it is related to the semiconductor. That is why I am discussing this too, right? So India-Taiwan agreement. Now the agreement is for manufacturing hub for semiconductor. There's an agreement between India and Taiwan related to establishing a manufacturing hub for semiconductor, right? They are talking about the education and training of manpower that will be involved in this particular agreement or a particular manufacturing hub. The people that will be employed in these kind of things will get education and training, right? Then Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company and United Microelectronic Corporation will join hand. Okay, so these corporation will join hand to establish a manufacturing hub for semiconductor in which many of the people will get employed, and the employed persons will get education and training of manpowers by the country itself, right? So this was India-Taiwan agreement related to the semiconductor, right? Now next is the way forward, right? This is the main conclusion of this whole topic, okay? So emerging technologies, especially Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, augmented and extended reality, and blockchain are gaining prominence across industries, right? So as if we just name India as a country, so even India itself is talking about Digital India program and digitizing every other thing, right? And we have talked about artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. We are rolling out 5G services, right? So all these things are getting prominence across industries in our country, right? So we can't afford to have a shortage of such kind of conductor, right? We can't afford to have such kind of shortage in semiconductor. So India is basically, again, if we refer to second point, is that India is finalizing plans to manufacture semiconductor chips in a big way as part of its Make in India initiative, right? Again, India is talking about Making in India initiative, and they are finalizing plans to manufacture semiconductor, as I already talked about India-Taiwan agreement related to this, right? Then the nation is offering more than $1 billion in cash to each semiconductor company that sets up manufacturing units in the country, right? So So they are giving leverages on the company itself, right? Just to establish a manufacturing hub for semiconductor, because they are looking these kind of things in a very detailed way, right? They are imagining, they are actually drawing profits from these kind of things. They will draw profits if we have established manufacturing hub for semiconductor, right? Then chips made locally will be designated as trusted sources and can be used in products ranging from CCTV cameras to 5G equipment, right? So basically they if we have a manufacturing hub for semiconductor, right, and these chips will be made locally, they will be designated as a trusted sources and they will be used in varieties of products from CCTV cameras again to the 5G equipment, right? So next is related to India again. In December 2021, India invited an expression of interest from chip makers for setting up fabrication units in the country or for the acquisition of such manufacturing units. Again, the point is that India is focusing on this sector it's a very good move by India, right? Then this is all being done to achieve self-sufficiency in the manufacturing of semiconductors, and India should give semiconductors the status of critical infrastructure in most countries in the near future, right? So this was all about the suggestions or the conclusions of this topic, right? So if we just if I summarize this whole topic, the major portions which are relevant for examination point of view is that first, why this was in news and what is semiconductor, because maybe you can just have a basic idea about what is semiconductor and all, and what is conductivity, right? Then the key points, right? Why, and then the reasons for shortage. Reasons for shortage is again very basic. You will get these points in your comprehension, right? The impact is very important because we have so much data involved in here, right? So impact is again important. Then India-Taiwan agreement is important, right? Because it is related to the semiconductor chip, right? So this is important, and the companies that are being involved in this agreement is very important, which is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company and United Microelectronics Corporation, right? Then again, as a way forward, this is important in December 21 that they invited an expression of interest, and why the conclusion part is important, because you can draw from this slide that what are the efforts that government of India is making towards establishing a manufacturing hub for semiconductor, not just with the agreement with Taiwan, but also they are looking out for companies that will actually manufacture such thing locally, right? And the critical infrastructure thing, right? So that's all about this whole topic, that the shortage of semiconductors, right? Thank you so much.